Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Perricci. I'm the Associate Director of Strategic Partnerships for Webrecorder, which is a project of Rhizome. Rhizome is an arts organization focused on net art, and it's on the creation, promotion, and preservation of net art. Let's see. I wanted to let you know that we're recording this session. If it's a good recording, maybe subtitles in French will be added. I know that Helene was kind enough, she and her colleagues translated these slides that I'll be showing you in English, so they're available in French on the Artexte website. I have things kind of set up a little bit strangely instead of going into presentation mode because Zoom will do something odd if I put it in full presentation mode, so I'm just going to go through with this little bit on this side. So during this session, we'll talk about how to use Webrecorder.io, which is a user-friendly open source browser-based software tool for capturing web content and making that content accessible at no cost to you, the user. We offer 5 GB of storage for free. We're very generously grant funded right now, so we can do this easily. And we will be offering additional storage at subscription to help us recover our costs starting next year, but the 5 GB and the full functionality will remain free. So in this webinar, we'll also talk about options for downloading your web archives as WARC files and accessing those WARC files, and then you can do that offline. And we'll also talk about how to describe, manage, and share your web collections via Webrecorder.io. When I start a webinar or workshop on web archiving, I point out that web archiving is a multi-step process. So there's collection development and planning, deciding what to collect and how you'd like to go about it. Then there is the, going through with the selection process and being more specific about what you're looking for. Permissions is something that was part of a workflow at on one of my prior projects at Columbia University Libraries. And permissions were sought for every site that was collected. That's not done at most places at this point. And people often are collecting their own materials anyway. And harvesting, in this case, harvesting is not done by an automated crawler, a piece of software that goes through websites. It's done by you, by hand, as you access web pages through your web browser. Description is part of the process. It's not just getting the content, but it's describing it, giving access to it if you choose, and longer-term preservation is also part of the process. There are slides from a course that I teach on web archiving through the Society of American Archivists. That it's a video course and it's been kind of fixed in place for quite a while. So I've definitely published these slides on SlideShare, so you're welcome to take a look at it. It's based on web archiving such as it was about 3 years ago in 2015. So it's a little bit out of date, but the course was designed to hold up even with the changes in technology. So Webrecorder or Webrecorder.io is a tool for creating high fidelity interactive captures of any web pages you browse. So as I've been saying, you start by reviewing web pages through Webrecorder.io and getting the pages that you're seeing, and they become interactive captures you can navigate through as though they are live web pages. Webrecorder Player is a local application for a computer. It runs on Windows, Linux, and Mac, and that you can download for free from GitHub and use that. We'll go through this a little bit more further into the webinar. I've mentioned a few things on this slide already, that Webrecorder is easy to use and has robust tools, that it's free to use. It's fully open source. We use open standards, including the WARC file format, which is the standard file format for web archives. We have a growing user community. We have over 4,000 registered users, actually probably over 5 at this point. And it's a quickly evolving tool. It's made possible through sponsorship from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. We're currently finishing up the first year of a $1 million grant that goes over 2 years. So we've been really generously supported, and that's helped us really get going. this is our team. Webrecorder is brought to you by everyone you see here on this slide, and our preservation director at Rhizome is Dragan Ustenship, and he is the product manager. He works on Webrecorder and a few other projects. Ilya Kramer is the software director, and he got Webrecorder started all on his own, and then it's grown into this project that Mark Beasley, our senior front-end developer, works on. Pat Shoes, our associate director of design, and is largely the reason that Webrecorder has become such an easy-to-use tool. It's the work of all of us that has led to that, but it looks a lot nicer thanks to Pat. And then me, and then John Berlin is our senior backend developer. He's a new staff member as of this summer. He's been adding a lot to Webrecorder as well. So when I've mentioned high fidelity web archiving, by fidelity I mean a similarity between the original and the capture. So the original web pages and your copy of them that you've made. You're capturing web pages as they're loaded into the web browser. So Webrecorder is getting the information that your web browser is getting, and that makes it able to render the web page later the same way it's rendered into your browser today. You can archive interactive content, but it's only available after user input. So say on Twitter, you need to keep scrolling down so more and more content loads. For a video, you need to press play and let it play so the content loads. In theory, with video, if you hit play and it all loads into the browser, all the information has been received. But some websites like YouTube and Vimeo occasionally, and sometimes not so occasionally, feed the video clips in 1 minute increments to save bandwidth, and therefore you will only get up to the point that you actually watched. So I advise people to watch the videos through if you want to be sure you got them. I've mentioned that it's the same system for capture and now also for browsing, which is a web browser. So Firefox, Chrome are the recommended browsers. Safari is not 100% recommended. Internet Explorer will work, but Chrome and Firefox are really the ones to focus on. So I think I've probably made this clear about high fidelity archives. One thing I do use as a counterpoint, though, is crawler-based systems. So the Internet Archive, for example, uses a web crawler and gets a whole lot of content, and that's great, but there are certain things that it isn't able to capture, like interactive content, and when you take the time to do this yourself, you can get that interactive content into your web archive. So this is also collecting at a human scale. You're doing it with intent yourself via web browser, one page at a time. You can import and augment collections created by crawlers. So if you had an existing web archive or there was something in the Internet Archive that is downloadable and you wanted to put in your own web archive, you can do that. You can upload BARC files into webrecorder.io. I can show you how to do that. But the point is that anyone can use Webrecorder. Our tagline is web archiving for all. And we really mean that. We would like everyone to be able to do web archiving and it not to just be something that only a small group of users can do on a paid basis in specific libraries, archives, and museums. So the payoff for careful capture is this accurate representation of the original. And I'll start off by showing you how to start capturing, and account login is optional. I do prefer it if users log in because it enables you to save things to your registered user account and add to it over time. But sometimes you want to grab something real quickly. The continued access, though, is part of the value added for Webrecorder. And you can share your collections as well as keep them or keep them private just for yourself. I use the terminology capture and browse. Webrecorder is used to make interactive captures of web pages. So it's as you see it while you're collecting, but it's not a screen recording software that can play the recordings back like a video. Our old terminology of recording and replay was really understandably confusing to a lot of users. So we've changed to capture and browse. And browse means accessing the content captured in the web archive and browsing it interactively like a live website. So when you're browsing a Webrecorder collection, it is its own separate unit, and you can only navigate within the collection that you've made. So this gives you tight curatorial control. It could be great, for your own portfolio. If you want people to stay very specifically in the boundaries of your own website, that is really a good use case here. But it does, some users find the boundaries of the collection pretty quickly and don't understand why things don't go any further. But again, this is just what you saw as you saw it when you saw it. So it does have this kind of time capsule element to it. So access and sharing options, you can make the collections public or keep them private. Public collections and public lists, I'll show you lists later, can be viewed by anyone. Finer access controls are being considered, for example, password protecting the collection or collaborative editing tools. We would like to make shared editing features available in the next several months. We're working also over the next several months on automated tools. So some of those crawler software-based tools, but also still having the hand collecting element and the higher quality. I'm going to just stop for 1 second and take a drink of water. So why is it hard to preserve quickly evolving websites? I use news websites as an example because they're constantly pushing the limits of technology, and they have a lot of interactive content, audio and video and ad content. And it's something that traditional crawlers can't really do, including running JavaScript, and they're rapidly changing. So if you think about these elements, this applies to a lot of artist websites, gallery websites, and net art projects. One question we get a lot is, do you capture apps? And Webrecorder is not suited for mobile applications because those applications are often web browsers customized for one or more particular websites. So that is something to keep in mind. Media-rich database-driven websites, like called news apps, are within Webrecorder's domain, but when you're collecting that, it is collecting it by hand. So even if there's a big database behind it, you're getting each piece of that as a user, so that can take a significant amount of time. We have developed a tool for a digital publishing platform called Scalar, and that has found a way to extract the database and a certain amount of software and the content and external content all in one unit. So these things are kind of coming along the pike in bits and pieces, but that was a lot of custom development from Ilya, so that isn't something that we can repeat all the time, and it's also a service that we may be offering on a cost recovery basis. Something to keep in mind is social media can be captured with Webrecorder, especially Instagram and Twitter. Facebook is constantly changing their technology, so we are constantly trying to keep up with them. But Instagram and Twitter are things we can handle quite well. And it's really interesting to think about social media because sometimes the content is individualized for you as a user. And one thing to keep in mind, though, is when you're logged into your social media profiles, Webrecorder is designed not to capture your login credentials. However, accidents sometimes happen, and sometimes they get written into the work file, which only you have access to. But if you're concerned about your social media credentials being, shared over a longer period of time when you yourself, if you are giving people the work file, so you can make your own, like a sample account for capturing social media if that's a concern for you. But there are a couple things to emphasize. One is Webrecorder.io as a website is not recording your information. And two, Webrecorder staff don't have any access to your work files. So if it is baked in there, there's really nothing to worry about unless you take those work files later and share them with someone else. So one thing that you can do also as you collect, if you don't get everything you wanted, you can patch. So you can add additional pages into something that you've started. I'm going to show a couple sample collections, but before I do, would anyone like to ask any questions, or does anyone have any comments so far? You're also welcome to use the chat if you don't have a microphone, but you would like to write a question in. And also, I don't have to wait too long for this because I can keep the chat open and keep an eye out if someone has a question that you'd like to jump in with. So maybe I won't pause for too long on this, but you're welcome to chat in some questions. So now I'm going to stop the share or pause the share and share my whole screen. So I'm going to assume you can see my whole screen. And now let's open some sample collections. So this first one on the slide is a sample narrative collection. So this was based on a project that my colleagues did at the close of the Obama presidency. And so this is a good way to see how you can have a collection description, and you can have lists. You can make sublists of the pages in your collection and describe them. And it's possible to make lists that you share versus lists that you don't share. But let's go ahead and look at this first one. So in this collection, we have a YouTube video, which is maybe going to make a loud sound. Yep. And then we'll go to Vine. This was also part of it. What this was a collection that was illustrating how Torn Down for What the song was kind of picked up and interpreted for like a cool purpose. So basically I'm going to show you some of this content. We can talk a little bit about like what this all means, but just to show you the functionality. So this is Vine, which you might remember. And so yeah, you've got a bored teenager watching her parents. But anyway, this was related to a contest to get people to make a Vine, and it was in order to win a pair of headphones. But it led to the creation of a like wide variety of Vines around a certain song being turned down for what. So where this is going, though, how this relates to the Obama presidency is that there's an actor who did a very good impression of President Obama.
On average, how many calories do you burn every time you turn up? Here's a question for the First Lady. On average, how many calories do you burn every time you turn up?
So that was the question, and here was the response, also on Vine.
Up for what? Turn up for what?
So this gives you a sense of like kind of that interaction of this conversation on social media. This was the Twitter thread, so it was the question, the answer, as well as kind of conversation around it and how people reacted to it. Also, like at that moment, the song was such a big part of what was going on that there was a website made entirely to do the following.
Turn down for what?
So it's simply a button you press to play that clip. And you can see here on Twitter kind of what was going on in the conversation about it in 2014 versus 2016. The hits were definitely, maybe less relevant, but I mean, it was in 2014, there was a much richer conversation, I think, around the hashtag referencing the song. This collection also includes information about when Vine closed, this website with the 6-second videos, and how Vine played like a really important role in its time. And one last thing on the collection is when someone was saying, it's official that the song and its implications, not implications, but its song and its place have have been exhausted because it has led to just someone using a laser pointing to make cats bop along to the song. So that's just one example of how you can get a whole bunch of different content all kind of packed into one collection for a particular purpose. Some other collections you can view online yourself. The Indianapolis Museum of Art, now Newfields, collected their whole website before it was redesigned. The Clark Art Library has a collection that they make of projects associated with the Venice Biennale every year. So there's some really ambitious projects in here. And some of this is captured with a tool from the Internet Archive, but this web recorder is used for things that are harder. And, as I said, it does well with Instagram and and YouTube and other video services. So that really does actually give a space for this to thrive. So you can view the cover page, for example, and then these lists give you a place to start. And here we can look at the Russia Pavilion from 2017. And if you click on these images, the larger images only appear if they were clicked on during the capture. So it looks like they were, Andrea, whoever was doing the capture, did get each of these in the full scale. And let's see, let's go back to the slides. So there's some other collections, but maybe I'll just leave it at this. Also, I'm going to ask whoever is getting a phone call to please put themselves on mute. Or I can try to find you and put you on mute, but it would be nicer if you did it yourself.
Hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks.
Okay, I'm muting that person, muting this person. So let's see. Okay, I think that'll do it. So let's move on and talk a little bit about pre-configured browsers as remote browsers. And it's using a web browser that's kind of locked into place in a prior version. So I'm using Firefox 62 when I use my web browser right now. But for Flash to work properly, sometimes having an older version of the browser is really helpful. I also use this slide to highlight some work we're doing with the NFB, the National Film Board of Canada. And we're really excited to be working with them on remote browsers because they have a lot of Flash-based content that is going to be unusable when Flash officially goes away in 2020. So this is just a big diagram of how Webrecorder fits into the whole scheme of things with their advanced media asset management system. So we can get into description management and sharing later, but let's dive into webrecorder.io and make a new collection. So we're at webrecorder.io. I'm signed into my own account, but you don't necessarily need to do that to start. But I would like to add to a sample collection, but actually I'll just make a new sample collection. So let's go create new collection, and we'll call this webinar sample 2. I can make it public, and we'll create that collection. I'll start by going to Rhizome's own website because it's a good example. And when I was mentioning remote browsers, these are the ones you can choose from. I'm going to just use my current browser. In session settings, I can make a note about what I'm doing and why, or I can just hit start. So what's happening now is this web page is loading, and I'm going to scroll down to trigger all the content that's on the page. Up here, these numbers will go up as long as the capture is happening. The red light isn't blinking right now, so it looks like, and the number isn't going up, so it looks like we're good. So let's go to the blog, and we'll scroll down. And this isn't getting the full blog post, it's just getting these thumbnails about the post. So let's open this. And this is part of the Net Art Anthology, which is created by our curatorial team. And they use Webrecorder to capture legacy net art and share it. So we'll go use the back button as we can. We'll get this piece. If I want to get further pages, I have to click on them. So this is taking me out to jeudi.org and the Wi-Fi Garden, which this is part of, I think, their most recent project. So this is still blinking. It's not counting up, but it's still blinking. So we'll let the content load a little bit more. And then I'll hit back. I might hit back a little sooner just so we don't have to sit here for too long. I'm just gonna hit back. And then let's go to About. So About Rhizome. And now let's go take a look at Instagram and get that. So what I'm going to do on Instagram, there's a lot of content here. So I'm going to use this button in the upper right-hand corner with 3 dots called Auto Scroll and turn that on. And then that's going to scroll down for me. While that's scrolling, I can also point out this other button up here, the bug button. So if something goes wrong, if something doesn't look right, or something, you know, is getting caught up, or you're not seeing what you think you should be seeing, you can hit the bug button and tell us about what's going on. And I really appreciate hearing from people about this because we can't improve around certain technical problems unless we know they're happening. So it's really helpful when you use the bug button. So this will keep going until Instagram either hits the end of the account or gets sick of responding. And Instagram, I think, tends to give us everything. Twitter, sometimes it goes back so far that the service will stop responding. So here is the end of the feed. So I'm going to hit, I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and we can open some of the images to have them in full. And we can get the comments here. We'll go and page through another image or two. So here we go, let's hit stop. So now here's the capture I made with all these different web pages in it. So I can go and view this again. So this is coming, you're browsing this from your collection. If I go to a page I didn't collect, it'll say it's not there. So I can patch it. You can go back and grab that. Since I might have wanted this page on software, I mean, who wouldn't want to know more about Webrecorder as well as our other software tools? So we'll hit stop since that's now patched. And we'll go back to our pages. And now that's been added among the other things. We can go back and look at the Instagram account as well. And I'll see though, if I click on this, it's not going to open in the full size because I didn't get it. But if I click on this one, I will see the full size, and I will be able to look at that and scroll through up to the point that I captured. Now I didn't open up the other images, so they won't load. So I'll hit stop, and that's when I think we can look at a couple things with Artexte's own collection. I'm gonna look at the chat to see if anyone's asked any questions, and it doesn't look like anyone has. So let's go, let's hit, oh, this was the Clarks. Okay. So I'm in my own account, and so I can click here on my username up here. And I have a sample account here. I have a lot of accounts, and you can see that there's the name of the account, sometimes the description if I've added it, if it's public or private, how much is in there, when it was created. I can start to delete from this page, but to delete something you have to type in the actual name so you don't do it accidentally. So let's go to Artexte. sample collection. And so Helene gave me multiple work files, multiple web archives that she created and she and her colleagues created. So I have made lists to divide some of that up. We can look at, let's look at AELab. So this was a website. If I want to make this smaller, I can. If I want to hide the bar on the right, I can do that. So this is navigating within the website as it was captured. And it's, you know, behaving as though it is on the live web, even though this is operating off of the copy, not off of the live website. So I'll hit stop. And say I want to, let's go back to the full 150 pages of the ones I've uploaded so far. We can make a new list. I can go to this plus sign and create a new list. Actually, we'll do grunt. So if I wanted to add certain pages that I know are in the collection, I can use this filtering. So grunt gallery was something that was in the collection, and then there was also like the art of engagement portion of that. So that pulled up, the filtering pulled up 1 through 39. So I can hit shift, highlight them all, drag them to the list. It does not subtract them from the full view. So those 150 pages are still there in the main, there's those pages I dragged over, those 35 pages are still among the 150. They haven't been subtracted. But I now have the ability to add notes to any given page. So I can add an annotation. So note about exhibition, where, you know, I might be misinterpreting that. I can also style this text, bold, and save. I've written about this collection. I've described it simply as sample collection from the Artexte webinar, for the webinar. And here's the collection name, which I can change. And call that singular because this is one collection. It's multiple lists. And let's see. From here, I can also do a few more things. I can start a new session if I want to collect some more. And I can also hit this here and do a few more activities. I'm seeing a chat though, so I'm going to open that up. Okay, so good questions. So one, will Webrecorder capture non-downloadable video content? Yes. It has to be played through the web browser. But an embedded video from Vimeo should be capturable without a problem. And Webrecorder Player will play back any work files, but there aren't many other ways you can make a work file other than with Webrecorder. You can download work files from the Internet Archive that other people have made. But in terms of like user-facing tools, there aren't really too many other places you can get a work file, just FYI. But yeah, Webrecorder Player is able to open and play any work files. When you get over a few thousand pages in a work file, sometimes things will start to get slow and a little bit messy, but you can still do it. You can still open it. So let me know if you have any further questions. I'll keep an eye on chat. But this, so we're talking a little bit about this circular button and some of the things you can do. You can go to the cover page and see what it looks like to a non-logged in user. Go back to my collection index. You can manage sessions. So if there was a session I didn't like, I can delete it. The thing is, I can't delete a single page from my collection. I can only delete session by session. So if I had a patch session that was just one page, cool, I can get rid of that easily. But if there are 2 pages I don't like of the 41 in this capture, there's not much I can do about it. It's also possible to download a single session. So say you just got 1 page and you just wanted that 1 page and you wanted to download it, you could do that. If for some reason you want to download something and then delete it from your account, you can also do that here. You can download the whole collection as a work file here, or again via that circular button with the dots, download collection. You can upload to a collection, so that's how I made this collection from the works that were shared with me. I'll upload another work because I uploaded most of them, but there was one more I didn't do. So it's this one, I believe. I'm going to hit open, upload, and so it'll be bringing that into the Webrecorder collection that I've been working in. I'm going to go back to my slides while it does that to see if there was anything I missed. I think I mentioned this, but lists can be public or private. If you do want it to be private, you can just mouse over it and click it so it's gray. The public button that is over, like as I was, where I was using that circular button with the 3 dots, it's right near there. There's a button to make something public or private. So we talked about manage sessions and downloading 1 session at a time, downloading a collection. So we'll download a collection in just a second. So let's see how this is doing. We're at 42%. I think the work file that I chose is maybe a little on the large side. Oops. I hit escape. I hope I didn't cancel that. If I did, I apologize. Here is that public versus private button that I was talking about. And if you make your collection private, all your lists will become private. If you set your collection to public, the lists that you have shared will be public, but you can still keep some private. So let's download this collection. So this is, I'm going to download that. This might take a little while, but while that happens, we can talk about Webrecorder Player. So Webrecorder Player is free software, as I mentioned. It's available from GitHub, which is a website where you can see all sorts of open source software and other projects, but it's available for free download. The link is in this the slide deck, so you can grab it there. If you just search for Webrecorder Player, I can't imagine it wouldn't come up. So this is a user-friendly application for browsing web archives, and you can browse offline. No internet connection is required. So this can be as simple as making a collection of reading for a plane ride where you don't want to pay for Wi-Fi, or you don't, it's not available. Sometimes it can be as simple as that, a reason to make a collection. So let's take a look here. So this is downloading. Let me open. Oh, it looks like it's about done. Okay, there we go. So Webrecorder Player is now opening because I triggered I tried to open a work file and I have it set to that. You can also just open Webrecorder Player and go to File, Open. So this is indexing the archive. And once this is done, I'll be able to browse through the file. So here we have it. We have the lists that I made. I can view the lists as well as the whole collection with all the pages. So let's go and do what we did before. I could turn off my Wi-Fi and show you that it still works, but we'd lose the call. So that wouldn't be any good. So this is all loading. So again, we can look through this file. We can look through the portfolio. So let's go to all lists. Oh, I may have shown this before, maybe not, but this eye up here in the upper left hides that toolbar. So if you just want to, you know, you're just demonstrating something, or you only want to really look at a particular page or project and not have that on the left, you can just minimize that by clicking on the eye button. So I'll go here. And I can use the back button like I would in my web browser. And let's go to the collection index. So let's see where we are. I think the only remaining slides, oh, there are a couple of remaining slides, but any questions or comments? Open up the chat. Okay, well, we can I'll just keep this open over here. So the last couple slides that I usually go through, one is about stewardship. So, you know, keeping your files. So that's storage. In the short and medium term, it's storage, and treating your work files like any other file you value, and making sure that's backed up in a couple places, and remembering that migration or dependencies can introduce risks. So if you eventually change your web archive from a work file to something else, that can complicate matters. Let's see. Can you restore a website with a work file? Unfortunately, no. And we get that question a lot. You could, if you wanted to restore access to the website, you could upload the work file to webrecorder.io and then direct people to that. We have a publication called Pelican Bomb who did that with their community-supported art store. They had a collection of artworks for sale, and then when the shop closed, they just collected all the pages and put it on their collection. So I can show you that later if it's of interest, but the short answer to the question is you can't put it back on a server via the work file, but you can restore access via webrecorder.io. And I'll keep an eye on this for any further questions. So let's see. This is kind of specialty stuff for archivists usually. I maybe shouldn't have even left this in. But let's go to the last thing. Let's see. I think so. The question was, are iframes supported when you record? I think they are. I'm pretty sure. If you try it and find that they're not, please let me know, but they should be. So what's next for Webrecorder? I did mention subscription-based services, such as more storage space. Automated collecting tools will also be offered by subscription to help us recover costs and make sure we become a sustainable project. And we will be implementing the sustainability plan that I've been building out, and it's a multifaceted strategy for generating income while still always maintaining a fully functional, free open source version. So a common business model for open source software is to make the tools available, but for custom work or extensive support that comes at a charge because it costs us money to pay staff to do that. And there should be more options for managing and sharing collections over time. So I think my last couple of slides are, asking for further questions and inviting you to contact me or Artexte. And I will maybe leave it on this slide just for a minute, but really look in the chat for your questions. You're welcome to unmute yourself, even if I muted you earlier. You can do that in the control panel. So it seems like we're at the end of the slides, and we can kind of, I can kind of keep showing you more collections, but we might kind of be at a good stopping point. We've ended, before the hour. Let's see. Yes. So the question was, will this record a portion of a live stream if I leave it open while the stream is going? It should. It really should. If it doesn't, let us know, but it should. Oh, sure. I can finish with that upload. So let's go back to the sample collection and the scroll upload. So we'll go here, we'll go upload to collection, pick the file, do that, open. Again, it's going into the sample collection, or I could create a new one, but we'll upload. So while that's uploading, any other questions? At this point, for very complex net art pieces, it is necessary to go through every link by hand in the web page. We are building automated tools, but as I said, it's something that we would have to offer at a premium because it costs us money on the servers that we use on Amazon Web Services. So do stay tuned for automatic tools, but just note that we probably won't be able to offer them for free. Any other questions? So it looks like we're a little past 75% now. So we should be good soon. And we can open up that work file in Webrecorder Player while we're waiting. I won't accidentally cancel the upload this time. Oh, it's on my desktop, sorry. Okay, good, it worked this time. So there are 120 new pages in this collection. So, and then, okay, I'm gonna reduce that while it does its thing. So the work I just uploaded will be, those URLs should be, looks like they're kind of mixed in. I can sort things by timestamp page title URL. Let's start by page title. Sort of helpful. Let's go to URL. And let's filter for school. So this has helped me identify the pages that have school.ca in the URL. So that's probably a good hint of what I want to put in a list. And as you could see from the 270 pages, that we're starting to get into like a point where it gets a little harder to manage. So let's go here and make this list, create. And again, I'll take, just click on the first one and then scroll down, hit shift, and put that in my new list. And go back to all the pages. So this is my full collection. Sometimes doing by timestamp makes it a lot easier, like if you're collecting yourself, but I'm using work files that were provided to me. So I don't necessarily know when certain things were collected, but since certain things would most likely be collected in the same session, sometimes you can get things like, okay, it looks like this was a collecting session specifically for school things on the 28th of November from 12. See, you can kind of do the history, right, of what was, when stuff was done. So 12, 12, 12, 12. Oh. Yeah, so at least from, well, looks like maybe it started at 11:46 on the 28th, and all of this was collected over the course of, looks like an hour. About. Anyway, does that help for the person who had a question about, yes, okay, good. Any other questions? So I guess one thing I can show is what it looks like when I log out. So this is a public collection. I'll log out. Oops, I looked at my own account settings. Move this away. I'll log out. And now let's go to the page as I see it when I'm not logged in as me. So these are all my public collections. And go to Artexte one here. And you can see the lists that I made. You can browse the pages. You can have this sidebar if you want, but you can also hide it. You can look around. If I did get to a point where there was something that wasn't collected, it'll just be resource not found. I wouldn't have the option to patch it in because I'm not logged in as the owner. So I'll go back here. And this is also where you can see again, like where when the description for the collection has been added, the list. This was another sample collection. Let's see if you, yes, it will keep both. So the question was, if you recollect the same page on 2 different dates, will it keep both? It will keep both. Yeah, it'll have a different timestamp on it, so you'd be able to tell the difference that way. So yeah, this is what is code. It was kind of amazingly illustrated. And you can interact with this. So it's this one's a full copy. So I'm clicking on this stuff. And it's telling me, it's giving me a response. And this was actually a really interesting explanation. This is funny too, because it's like with this one, if I scroll down to the very bottom, the thing will tell me how fast I read it. So over here, congratulations. Let's see, any other questions? Pull this back out. I'll go back to this slide and again say you're welcome to contact me, and also the folks at Artexte, they're fantastic, and I know that they will give you probably any answer you need, or send you our way if you have Webrecorder related questions. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at thanks. I'll stay on the line for a little bit longer in case anybody else has questions. But thanks again, and I hope you enjoy using Webrecorder. I'll stop the recording here.